great to see. I'm glad we've made this happen because you're, I mean, this is in a nice way. You're a hard man to sort of track down because you are a busy, busy guy. Where have you been of late on your adventures?
So recently, I was in Guyana at the start of the year, out in Kaito Falls, and then had 4 days at home, and then flew out to Jordan for, how long was that? 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks. I'm just back from Jordan last week. So yeah, it's been pretty hectic this year.
The falls you mentioned. Tell us about that trip, because was that with Netflix or who was that with?
It was so Netflix are doing this thing about water and the environment, like flowing water and different types of water. It sounds quite dull, but it actually is going to be quite interesting, I think. So what they want us to do is focus on the flowing water of like the river down in Kaito Falls, and then there's some kind of animals, some swifts that nest behind that falls that have never been filmed before. So as part of the team, a team from Remote Ropes, they kind of set up a rope system to get behind the falls to start filming these swifts that were coming in. Never been done before. No one's ever been behind the falls, so it was quite a big thing, quite an interesting challenge. It was pretty cool.
And how do you set about getting behind the fall? I mean, that whole adventure, if it's not been done before, that must be pretty cool for you. Do you love the sort of that challenge when something hasn't been done before?
So it was all really a guy called Waldo Etherington. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah,
I know him, and I've seen him through things he's done with Leo Holding.
That's right. So they're good mates.
Yeah.
So he was responsible for all the rigging. He brought his team out, who were like a couple of big wall climbers, really established guys. So you set a bit of an abseil lineup, and then you get some crazy guy who loves big wall climbing, who then finds his way along the side of the waterfall until it can get under the waterfall, linking ropes up all the way until they're where they are. So it was amazing to work with them and to learn from them. Super cool guys, mega chilled out. It was a total privilege, to be honest. And
are you there on the medical safety side of things?
Yeah, so it was a team of 10, I think, altogether. And because it's quite a remote place, you have to fly in on one of these little light aircraft, chickens and things flying around in the background. The kind of medevac situation, if anything happens during the night or bad weather, you can't get anyone out. So I was kind of there as the paramedic, and then kind of, I'd say overall safety, but it was quite a shared thing, this one, because Waldo, his team were in charge of the edges and the kind of the main thing, like the ropes. I was just kind of overall general safety, health, well-being, the kind of expedition medicine stuff that you'd expect in these locations.
So I mean, like you're planning ahead for these missions must be pretty extreme, because if you're out there and you can't get rescued, if anyone gets injured, it's on you.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, it's always a big thing. I'm always, before I go away on these things, I'm looking, right, where's the nearest hospital? What's the kind of medevac procedures? How long am I likely to have these patients for if anything happened? So something like a snake bite would have just been a nightmare out there if the weather had come in. It's quite a simple thing to treat if you get people out, but the time that it would take would just be a total nightmare. So it's just learning where everything is, in terms of geography in the country, facilities, things like that. So before you go, there's a lot of planning. There's a lot of like what ifs, and you're running through scenarios in your head and making sure your med kit is set for that environment, things like that. Yeah.
Have you ever had someone get a snake bite or anything like that, or animal attack?
No, actually, I've been quite close on two. So in Greenland last year, it was quite close with a musk oxen, and then one of the guys, Sean, who was on this Guyana trip, he went to the toilet in the bushes and he thought it was a pile of stones, but it was a snake called a fer de lance. It was just at the end of the day, so it was nighttime. The light was fading, and he just seen this, what he thought was a pile of stones, and it was a fer de lance, which is a really serious snake out there. I think someone said it was responsible for the most deaths in South America, these snakes. And it was right next to our hole lines, actually. And if he'd been bitten then, that would have been just the wrong moment, because the light was fading. Getting an aircraft in would have been a nightmare to get him out. So I was kind of phew.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. What's the first thing you do as a medic if someone gets bitten by a snake? What's the protocol on something like that?
go on the spot, mate. So the main thing is really, and it sounds kind of counterintuitive, you need to remain calm. You need to try and calm that patient down, try and slow everything down, slow the heart rate down, try not to get in a panic, and you need them just to sit still, not move about, just get them nice and calm, sit them still, and then you'll dress it appropriately and try and get them out as quick as can without kind of getting them to move. You don't want to raise that heart rate. You don't want that venom to be circulating faster than it should be, or you want it to be. And you try and put a compression bandage around that bite.
Yeah, now it must obviously, see if that was to happen, would you quite quickly be trying to identify the type of snake? Because obviously different snakes, different things, but it might have gone, or there might be an issue.
Exactly. So like I would never chase a snake to try and find out what it is.
Is that a stupid question? I think it might have been.
It's not because a lot of people do get bitten like that. They try and chase and try and find out what it is.
Yeah.
So I'd definitely just leave it as it is, just let it go. And then if you get a glimpse of the color, or if you can get it off the casualty, then yeah, that's a bonus. But the chances are you're not going to get to see it. But the people that work in these areas or live in these areas are they know the snakes, they know what's coming. So try and seek a bit of local knowledge off the locals if you can.
We've dived into this. I've been since we spoke on the phone, and that you were like, I'm going here, I'm going there, let's do it in March, let's do it in April. For all these questions about the waterfall, people will be listening to this saying, who is this guy? This guy, we've just gone straight into waterfalls and snake bites and stuff. A bit of background, because there's the military, there's paramedic, there's everything. You're now working with TV crews and Netflix and all these sorts of things. Just give me a quick run through of the backstory of how you got to today.
Okay, yeah. So obviously my name's Wayne Auton, and I kind of started my career as a Royal Marine. So I joined the Royal Marines in 2000, and then left 2008, started 2008. Served with 4-5 Commando mainly up in Arbroath in Scotland. Left, I had a bit of a plan. I kind of liked the medical side of things when I was in the Marines, so I left. My next door neighbour said, what are you going to do? I was like, don't know, but I want to make 30 grand a year minimum. Total pipe dream. And then
Wayne, I'm gonna bring you back to this. We can't go past Arbroath without me asking you, did you ever put rugby players through their paces at training camps?
I didn't know. That's a PTI thing, that. Yeah, that's
okay. So you're beyond that. Well, I've back in the old days, I've been to Arbroath 3 or 4 times and still have memories of how horrific it was.
Yeah,
how horrific it was. But the boys that were training us, we'd be out there early in the morning. They'd come in with the saucepans and wake us up. But they were just getting in from a night out.
Yeah.
To go straight out and absolutely flog us.
Mate, yeah. It used to, like, when I think back now as a 43-year-old, the things that we used to do, like you could go out and have a half gallon of beer or whatever, then still crack a 10-miler the next day. The thought of that now just sends shivers up my back. There's not a chance I'd get out of bed with that now.
It is incredible. And they would put us through it. And obviously when we were on the course or whatever we were doing, getting put through our paces, the guys were brutal.
Yeah.
But then in the mess room, when we're sitting down for food and things like that, top boys. And you could see we're there to become a better team.
Yeah.
And you see that the coaches, we're there to be immersed in their team, to see how tight you guys are.
Yeah, totally. And it is really tight. And that's the thing with the Marines. They're not very, they put you through the paces and stuff, but they're not super shouty, screaming in your face, aggressive and stuff like that. They can be. There's a time and place, but then it is very much chilled and the team is like, I never found that since the time in the Marines. I've never found that team bond again. It's just something that you can't find, So, yeah, and they're, like, to be honest, I am very biased, but the Marines are pretty chilled and pretty friendly group of guys, to be honest.
I'm going to go right there. You see, you've not found a team like that. What was your exit like from the military? Was it something you found difficult, or did you find the next thing you wanted to do quite quickly?
No, it was super difficult. I think it's took me quite a long time just to come to that realization that you're probably never going to find that again. I've got it to a certain extent with some of the things that I do now, but when I first left, there was nothing good enough. I still had these standards that I obviously try to maintain, but was expecting them in others, and it always kind of fell short. So it took me a long time to kind of transition into civilian life. Yeah, massively.
Did you know what you were going to do though? Did you get a job, or did it get pretty dark?
No, so like, and I think that's what you need to do when you leave the forces. You need to have a plan, and that's a big bit of advice when I speak to the guys who are leaving. I'm like, yeah, just make sure you have a plan. So when I put my notice in to leave, I didn't have a massive plan. But my next door neighbor said, why don't you become a paramedic? And I thought, I've never really thought of it. I don't have the education to become a paramedic, because it became university just as I was leaving. You had to go to university, do the paramedic degree. And my neighbor said, yeah, you've got the education, kind of wink, wink. And kind of I started from there, you know, I entered the university and then started my paramedic career, 2 years at uni, and then on the road as a paramedic.
How long were you in the Marines?
So I've done just short of 8 years, touching on 8 years.
And how do you cope going from the Marine mentality into being a student?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I'm not mega, it's not aggression's the right word, but
can you handle if something's pathetic at uni or just absolute, you're just like, shut up.
Yeah, I think
someone else's problem to you will not even register on your radar.
And that's the difference when you leave, like obviously problems in the Corps and stuff in the Marines, like it can be like life and death, you know, and obviously it can be as a paramedic, but not so much your life and death or your mate's life and death. So everything was kind of relative, and yeah, some of the things were a bit like, really, like, just relax, it's not a big deal.
It's a deadline for an essay that you've missed. It's not someone's lost a leg, or
yeah, I panic with that now still with my my essays. I'm like, that's probably the biggest stress in my life, essays. But yeah, it's like that transition year, with a bunch of, when I joined, there was people from the ambulance service going through the paramedic course who'd waited years to get on it, and they were quite bitter and twisted and quite cynical. And you have to really fight hard not to let that rub off on you, you know, and kind of stay away from it and kind of make a bit of banter with it if you can. But yeah.
What were you like on a night out at uni? Knowing what you boys are like.
No, I was what, 28 or something like that. So mature student. So like the way I worked, so we done time at uni, then time on the road in the ambulance. So when I was at home rather than going at being at uni, and then at night I was just trying to get on top of my studies, because obviously I wasn't the most academic of people. So just trying to get a grip of that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So there's a few nights you hang one on and you're like, whew, but
yeah, I know but that's the thing. The next morning you'll be up and going for it. You'll get ahead of all the students who are hungover and lying in bed. You'll be up smashing burpees and 10 miles. You boys, I've met a lot of ex-military guys. I've obviously trained with them many years ago, and I mean, different breed, so impressive.
Yeah.
But see, the transition into a paramedic, did that phase you at all? I mean, what you could turn up at a car crash, you could turn up at anything. Did that take a while to adjust to, or the military sort of enough?
I kind of thrived on that, to be honest. I love those big jobs where it's quite stressful and sounds awful, but like when there's a real casualty there where you have to really work and you have to use your skills and you have to dig deep type thing. And I still have it now, but I have this weird thing in my mind where I just separate from this. So I see what's there and I just separate what I'm doing, the scene, from like real life, if that makes sense. And I still do it now with the big jobs that I have been going to. I'm just able to right, that is that. And this is kind of me in my little bubble, and I'll deal with that pretty chilled. And I don't get too fazed by that, which I suppose is a bonus as somebody who comes to help you.
And you take well to authority. What if someone else turns up on the scene and tells you where to go? If you're in it and you're first on the scene, but someone else comes to take, I'm like chain of command and all these sorts of things. Are you good at?
I think so, yeah. I think it depends. It's with anything, isn't it? Like it depends. Anything in life, it depends on how people talk to you, how they speak to you. If somebody came up to me like that with that attitude, like, right, I'm in command now, I'm taking over, you'd be like, hang on a minute, like, just be polite. If you're polite, you get people on side, then I've got no issue with that whatsoever. And if they come with a kind of a kind of plan, a constructive plan, something that's going to help, then I'm happy to get on board, you know. And who's like, what is it with leadership? You need followership and things like that. So I'm happy to be a follower if I know things are going in the right way, or if I think things are going in the right direction.
And that surely comes from your military career, being able to follow and lead, being able to step up when required.
Yeah, exactly. And something like the way it works in the Marines, you work on each other's strengths in your own little team. You know what people are strong at, what people are weak at. So someone might be leading and then come up with a bit of a challenge, and then you'll kind of take over. So you're able to just adapt and adjust and then take over that leadership if needs be. And sometimes it happens when you're on these big jobs in the ambulance service, especially what I was doing before I kind of left the UK and the critical care teams is you come against these big jobs where someone's leading it and it's just starting to go the wrong way, or things are starting to slow down, and you need to try and get that momentum going, and you'll just kind of not take over, but start putting little inputs, and then eventually you and your mate are in command of it a bit. Sounds a bit big-headed, doesn't it? But that's not how we mean it. We just like, we come objectively, and we're separate from the scene sometimes, and we see what's happening. And
so what, I mean, can you recall any sort of situations, like scenes that you arrived on that did shock you, or you thought, here, we're going to be here all night, that sort of thing, you know? How bad did it get as a paramedic?
So, well, I worked in Glasgow for years. So I was part of the critical care team there. So we only dealt with major trauma, or myself and a consultant docked out, or kind of critical retrievals from islands and stuff. And there were so many jobs where big jobs, so the jobs that you see in the newspapers or reading the news, they're the jobs that we go to, like the mass stabbings in Glasgow that happened 2, 3, or maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, with the guys in the hotel. Things like train crashes, the Clutha, when the aircraft went at the Clutha, all these type of things is what our team kind of goes to. So yeah, you'll go to these jobs and it's just carnage. You're like, we're going to be here a long time. But the systems in place throughout the whole of the ambulance service that everybody works together to then bring in various resources and set up a big kind of like maybe a welfare unit, and then triage tents and stuff like that. Just gets massive, these big events.
What is it in you and about the sort of paramedics, the police, the fire brigade, that it's in you to run towards the danger? It's in you, and it's obviously, we keep going back to your military, but there's something in you, something took you to the military. Did you have that as a kid? Were you always up for it? You're going to help. Were you that kind of child and teenager as you progressed through your younger years?
So I always wanted to join the military ever since I can remember. The first books I read were like SES books of the Falklands and things. I'd always be running around with camouflage clothes on. Maybe it's like up until I was in my teens, to be honest.
Look at me, I've got a green sort of camouflage hat on. I'm just playing it. You're the real deal.
I like it, mate. I like it. It's good. Yeah, I don't know. So obviously in the Marines, you're serving someone, you've got a greater goal. I think that's maybe the same as being a paramedic. You've got a reason, and the reason is life or death sometimes, you know, and that is the highest stakes you can kind of play for. And you get that little bit of buzz from doing that. And when it's a positive outcome and someone will come back and maybe thank you, or you see somebody walking their daughter down the aisle or something like that, then you just think, yeah, that's what I do it for. That's what I'm here for.
Did it ever take its toll on you? You know, if you see so much devastation?
I think so. Like I say, before I moved out here, I took a career break. So there was a job that I was totally fine with it. It worked well. The job went as well as it could be. It was a negative outcome, but there was just something in that job where my mind didn't compute what I was seeing. So I was watching my mate do something, and as I was getting ready, and it didn't compute. And then I went back to base that night, and I just sat there, and I was like, there's something not right there. So I thought, right, I'm just going to take a little bit of time out, a bit of a breather, because I'm sick of seeing like things you shouldn't see, like putting holes in people, all this type of stuff that you do. And I'm just like, I've done it for like 20 odd years. So I'm just going to take a bit of break, refill my cup back up, and just enjoy life a bit and see what's out there.
And when you moved here, where are you, Chamonix?
In Chamonix, yeah.
How's life over there? It looks like you're in the shed. Where are you?
It's like the sauna. No, this is this is
You're in one of the rooms, yeah.
this is my spare room. This is like
Right.
the office room. Yeah, nice pine deco and.
Hey, it looks awesome. I wasn't being disrespectful there, but
I know.
it's different to my old-fashioned radiators and curtains on my wall.
Yeah, I think this place was built in '74. I think the landlord said it's like an old school wooden chalet, like proper old school. It's cool.
And what took you there? And you said your baby family life. What's going on in Chamonix with you?
Yeah, so I love the mountains, mate. I love kind of being out in the mountains. I think it's the best therapy, just being out, climbing, skiing, all that stuff. And where better to kind of do it than Chamonix, you know. There's obviously better ski resorts out there, but you've got everything here. You've got your skiing, your touring, your alpinism, cragging, it's all here. So I thought I'd come and base myself here. Although I've been away for 9 months of the last year, I haven't really took much made the most of it yet, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
And so that when you say 9 months, is that sort of you wait for contracts to come in or offers or a Netflix contract, things like that? Is that how you've sort of structured your life to be able to sort of play in the mountains, family life, but then when a contract comes in, if you fancy it, you can go for it?
Pretty much, yeah. So it kind of all started last January when I went down to Antarctica on a trip. On the Endurance 22 expedition looking for Shackleton's ship. So I was down there for 3 months, and then I thought, all right, I quite like this expedition remote medicine stuff. So somebody recommended us to this company that I work for, and then they get jobs and they say, right, do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? It's for this long, it's on this date. And then I kind of say yes or no, depending on where it is and what the job is. So that's kind of how I play it. And because I'm quite new to it, I've been saying yes to pretty much everything just to get a good reputation, get my name known. And then, yeah, so they're pretty good. The jobs, there's plenty of work out there at the moment that keep coming in. So I'm happy just to keep doing it and traveling the world.
I enjoy your Instagram, obviously, looking back and just see from Greenland to jungles to Antarctic to Shackleton's endurance. You know, you've done some incredible, you've lived, I don't know, how many lives have you lived, from the military to paramedics to adventure in Chamonix to all these hidden, or not hidden, but waterfalls that no one's ever been to or been behind. You're living several lives in one.
I know, and sometimes so I very much take it for granted. Sometimes I have to give myself a pinch, and I don't know, like, am I ever satisfied? Like, I'd imagine some people will do one of these trips and be satisfied with that, whereas I don't know if I'm just ever going to be satisfied, which is probably a sad thing in a way. But yeah, and I speak to people like, oh, have you done that? Have you done that? And I just kind of normalize it. I'm like, well, have you not done that? And it's a really strange, because if I sit back and think, hang on, this year you've been here, I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. But
the way you just skipped over 3 months in Arctic looking for Shackleton's sunken ship, that says it all to me. This guy lives a extreme lifestyle. Because tell me about that trip. I mean, I looked at some of the photos, I read a blog that you did and all these bits and pieces. There's information out there, but what was that like? What was that adventure like?
Yeah, it was really strange. So the week before I got offered that job, someone said, do you want to go have you seen the Blue Planet footage where the killer whales knock the seals off the iceberg things? So I got asked to do that, and I was like, yes, I'll never get to Antarctica. And then the people that said, do you want to do it, then said, oh, look, we've got another medic who's done it before, they're going to go down. So I was like, and then the week later, the Shackleton endurance trip came up. Someone said, do you want to be the medic and the field guide for that? And I was like, absolutely, yeah. Sign me up. So it was kind of leaving from South Africa. So we got ourselves ready. It was initially, I think, like 8-week trip altogether. Initially flew down to South Africa, then joined the ship down there, ready to sail. Everyone had been isolating and stuff, and it was just as Omicron came on, like, or the South African variant it was called at the time, and I thought, well, what can go wrong? Flying into South Africa, got there the day I was boarding the ship, got COVID, and they said, right, well, you can't come. And I was like, oh no. Then they said, oh, this guy, we need this guy for the ice. So we need to get them on. So they changed the crewing of the ship. They moved everybody around the cabins and stuff like that. And then jumped on the ship for 10 days sailing. I think me and the other lad who had COVID, I think we'd done like 5 or 7 days isolation in our little cabins.
What was that like? Did you have games in that? How did you keep busy?
Like when they said, right, this is your cabin, you're going to be in there for 7 days, I just looked at this lad we'd never really met, and I was sharing this room with this guy, and I was like, this is going to be brutal. No air conditioning, nothing like that. We become mega feral. We just walk, like, we never got out of our boxer shorts. That's all we wore for 7 days. We haven't meals delivered. And like people were trying to look in the room to see who are these two guys in there. Just these
like Big Brother. You just did. What was he like? Was he a good guy?
Awesome guy, yeah. Like we become really good mates.
You kind of got to, don't you? If you're in that.
Super forced. But it was dead nice. We were dead chill. We respect each other's kind of privacy when you get on each other's nerves, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, then 10 days down, after we come out of isolation, we got let loose on the boat. We'd never been on the ship before, like we'd never seen around it, anything like that. There was 160 crew. We were like dogs coming out of a kennel. Like we just wanted to get back to our room because like, there's too many people and we don't know anyone. And then so then we just sailed down. There was plans to put our team on the ice, put the robots through the ice and let the ice drift over the wreck site type thing as they were searching, but the ice wasn't that thick. It was quite warm that year. So we were able to plow straight through to the wreck site or the last known locations of the wreck site and then start the search from there. But yeah, it was pretty cool. You know, me and the guys, we worked on the back deck helping the robotics crew put the underwater vehicle in and out. Just making sure they're sorted. Anytime anyone went on the ice, I had to take one of us with them as the kind of field guides. So it was a pretty cool trip, to be honest.
And what about injuries? Is everyone okay on that? Anyone fall in the water? Anyone, any disasters?
No. So what you do as you pass the Antarctic Circle, you have like a ceremony and a bit of what I'd call a joining routine where what's his face, Neptune and his wife come on the boat, and they're there and say, right, you have to do this ceremony to pass the Antarctic Circle, and you crawl out, you get sprayed with cold water, dunked in fish guts and all this stuff. And the only casualty we had was one guy kind of got mild hypothermia from being squirted lying on the deck with a fire hydrant, lying on the back deck of the heli deck in Antarctica. And he was from South Africa, so he didn't deal well with the cold anyway. And he just started going down. So it was so strange. I was lying there like a prisoner on the deck, and I just looked up and I seen him gibbering. I like jumped up and I was getting squirted with a high power hose as I was running towards him like some type of hero.
That's what I'm saying. You run towards it.
And then I picked him up. I was like, this guy's going down, get him out of here. I was like, what a douchebag.
But you saved his life and he lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
And what was that like? What was the celebration like when you saw the endurance and it was, it was there and you discovered it?
And so when I went down, I didn't really know a lot about it, about the boat, the story. I knew roughly because I had a mate who'd done the route, who'd skied the route like in 2006. So I wasn't that bothered about finding it, to be honest. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool if you find it, but I'm not fussed. But then when you get a whisper, right, we found it, I'm like, ooh, and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, because you're quite invested in it then, because you're helping the guys put the robots in and get it out, and it's cool and it's a bit tough. And then when they showed the footage, I was like, whoa, this is pretty impressive.
So are you looking at screens on your boat of what the robots are looking at below?
Yeah, so these are like autonomous vehicles, so they get set a pattern, and there's like a thing that sticks under the boat that sends out a GPS signal, and it tells these robots where to go. And it's this little porter cabin on the back of the ship that all the robotics crews are sat in. Like, we weren't allowed to go in there because we weren't privy enough for that. We were just the muscle on the back. But we had a mate in there. Where is he from? From Air? Yeah, he's from Ayrshire. Well, Aaron, he was from Aaron, this lad from Aaron. We got chatting with him, just a normal guy. And we put the robot in that night. We went to dinner, and he came in, a bit of a different look on his face, and he smiled and gave us a wink, and we like found it. And and then no one else knew at this time. And then we went over, had a whisper, and he showed us a little picture on his phone. And we're like, wow, that is pretty cool. And then to see, like, you could see everything on the back deck. So if you like one of the books, you can see like the 3 or 4 guys scrubbing the back deck, and you can see the lino and stuff, and that pattern's still there. You can see people's boots, a flare gun that was fired. All this is just all lying there still. It's
on the deck of the boat.
On the deck, it's unreal what you can see, and the stuff they're going to put together, the footage that they've got is going to be amazing. They're going to do this interactive thing at museums where you can actually walk through the ship of Shackleton. You know, there's so much detail there with how they've covered it.
When was that trip? Or was it? Oh, you said COVID or Omicron?
Yeah, so I got back a year ago. Oh, yeah, just under a year ago. I think like 10th or 12th of March last year I got back.
And what you mentioned the Wales with Blue Planet. Has there been any other gigs or jobs that you've almost had, or you've thought I'm going to go for that and you didn't get, and it really pissed you off?
Nah, not really, to be honest. I have been quite lucky. There's a few that I haven't been to do, like Papua New Guinea. I'd really like to go there, and I haven't been able to for various reasons. But I really like the cold environments, the high environments. But I keep ending up in jungles or deserts for some reason. So although I want to go to Papua New Guinea, I'm not like mega pushing it. If it comes, it comes. But
yeah. So what do you do? Obviously, there must be. Is there? I was going to say booking agents, but is it the people that put the adventures together? I mean, do you have to knock about? Are you personally friends with some of the presenters, the people that will be on camera, and all these sorts of things, or is it kind of just who you know in the industry, and the more events and adventures you do, the sort of your name just is constantly recommended? How does it work to sort of get you the best ones?
So it all goes through. So I work for a company where these TV companies, the production companies, will go to them and say, right, this is what we need, and then that company will then come to me, and I like freelance or subcontract to them. Right. But yeah, if you do well, or if people like you, then you'll be asked for. That's kind of how it works.
Is it? And what any adventurers that you like watching on the TV, and you think if I was in their team, they go on the best adventures, or do you know what I mean?
I like kind of Steve. Is it Blackshaw?
Yeah.
I like his stuff, but obviously him and Waldo are pretty tight. Him and Aldo are pretty tight. Sorry, so there's no chance of getting in there, but they do cool stuff. Simon Reeve, he does some pretty cool stuff for the BBC. That would be pretty amazing to do some of their trips. But like, as long as the trip's in a cool place, doing a cool thing, I'm quite happy to jump on that, you know. But like, it was really nice to work with. Actually, was Chris Packham.
All right.
I'm like dropping names here as if I'm like some big dude, but he was such a nice guy to work with up in Greenland. It was really nice.
Greenland, what was that? You seem to have put quite a bit of on Instagram about Greenland. What was that experience like?
Wicked. So my favorite country used to be Norway, until I went to Greenland, and then Greenland's kind of Norway on steroids. So we flew up to the northeast of Greenland, following this Danish team who were tagging musk oxen, because they kind of can get a lot of information about climate change from these musk oxen. So it was kind of following them, and supporting like the BBC team as they were doing that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Aldo there. Obviously, he's been on the show, and he took Will Smith down the volcano when he did
that's
the show for Disney. That was a pretty cool one when Aldo talked about that.
Yeah, no, I think Will Smith's a super cool dude. We looked after him in Bhutan there in December. So we went up to this country called this town called Laya in Bhutan, which is meant to be the happiest town in Bhutan.
Why? What happens there? Why are they so happy?
Yeah, well, that was what we went to find out. So Bhutan's meant to be the happiest place in the world, or on Earth. So we're like, let's go to the happiest place in the happiest place. And then Will Smith came up to try and find some happiness and to see why people are so happy. And I think it all came down to kind of friendship groups and closeness and family and a sense of community. I think that's kind of, so that's how the Bhutanese kind of use, the do we use like GDP or something on how the country's going or how the country's working, whereas they use happiness. They have a consensus on happiness each year.
It's something that isn't talked about enough. You know, everything is doom and gloom. You know, that
Yeah.
it doesn't make the news unless it's doom and gloom, and the happiness or the good results tend to come at the end, or they're just forgotten about.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very interesting way to look at that and how to grade things through happiness.
Yeah, totally. And it was a really interesting, because I was like, are these guys really that happy? So all they seem to do is have archery competitions and then a party afterwards. I'm like, well, I can see why, you know. And there's a very strong sense of community, which, and these guys didn't have much. It was this really remote cut-off village, like 4,000 meters up in Bhutan. Pretty brutal weather, like no kind of insulation in the houses, living in kind of hut type thing, and they were all pretty happy, really nice. So yeah, it was a good experience, to be honest.
See, moving to Chamonix, is that you taking yourself away from the noise? You know what you say there, these guys didn't have much, but they're so happy. They don't have maybe the problems that we keep buying stuff and racking stuff up that we don't need, and so much going on in our life, and people in your world that you maybe want to get rid of or you don't enjoy seeing them. Was Chamonix a bit of a move like that for you, to sort of just be somewhere where you can be you and get out and push yourself, but also still be able and close enough to get where you need to be around the world?
I think so. It was definitely a time for me to come out here and like find myself, do stuff for me. Not like you say before, as a paramedic, as a Marine, you're serving others. So I kind of took a bit of a selfish approach and thought, right, let's go and have a bit of time for me, find out what I really enjoy, what I want to do, find that peace when you're climbing, getting into those like kind of flow states where you don't think of anything else, and just make it more of a full-time thing, that type of lifestyle. But yeah, just not away from the rat race, but somewhere a bit more chilled and a bit where you can just go and stand in your garden and look at the mountains and just feel a bit insignificant. So,
but you've created, as I sit here in you could say the rat race, you've created something that's, I'm envious of it, because you've got yourself to you can call your own shots. You know, it's something you've put so much hard work in with the military and the paramedic life. You've almost earned it. You've almost you kind of put your time in, you know. And then
so no, like 100%. And it's not a gripe of mine, but there's all these courses now, these expedition medicine courses. You come do one of these courses and you're set up for an expedition, or you can go and be a medic on an expedition. Or I get a lot of like messages saying, right, how do I do what you do? And I don't really have an answer, because it's not like, oh, well, go and do this course and then that'll be you, be able to do what like. And it's like, so Aldo does the same, you know. He's got years of experience where he's built upon it, which has made him, it's got him where he is now. And it isn't just a silver bullet. It's years of experience of different environments, doing different things, working with different people, that then make you suitable to kind of do a remote medicine job or a remote safety job, things like that, you know. So have I earned it? Probably. I've put a bit of time in, and I think, all right, it's been good, but it has all been good fun, so it doesn't feel like I've put a lot of time in. But when I look back and go, well, this is my experience, this is how I've done, this is what I've done, then I feel a bit like, okay, I kind of deserve to be here a little bit.
Yeah, and you should celebrate that quietly to yourself every now and again, and say, like, fucking pat myself on the back here. I think in life, we don't do that to ourselves, do we?
Nah, and I get told off that for that quite a lot. Like, I downplay a lot of things, or I don't mention stuff, or like I say, I normalize the abnormal type thing.
Well, again, you just dropped in Will Smith and all that banner. You know, it's like he's done it again. He's on Shackleton. He's searched for Shackleton's boat, and he's been out with Will Smith, Hollywood royalty.
I'm the worst type of human, aren't I? Just name dropping everyone.
No, but you do it so you're not the worst type of human, because you do it. It's just a conversation. That from when you've spoken to, I've had to come back to it and say, hold on, because to you've just spoken about it. It is your life. It's your world. Whereas me try to get stories out and talk to you and listen, it's like, well, hold on, there's something in that. That's Hollywood you know, royalty, his stock went down a bit when he was slapping Chris Rock, but it's he's still I Am Legend in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and a guy that's a huge Hollywood movie star. But to you've earned the chance to work with these people, and you've built the CV and gone through so much in your life and seen so much tragedy. Your skill set has been so developed to earn you the right to work with these people.
But I think like these people are people as well, and you have to just treat them like a normal person. And I think certainly for Will Smith, I think he appreciated that quite a bit. Just have a normal conversation with them. And
but can I say that if Will Smith, say I'm on an excursion and I meet Davey, the medic guy, and he says, I passed an exam and I got this gig. Or I meet Wayne, the former Royal Marine sniper. I know who I'm on, so I bet Will Smith wants to know just the background of his medical team. And with when your CV is unfolded and falls to the ground, it's like, that's the guy. This is the guy we need, not the one that, no disrespect, if someone has paid for a course and done all that, they're out there working, good on them. But when the shit hits the fan and the Royal Marine sniper is the one that's got to save you, or the guy, you know, I think a lot of us would agree with that you want that guy.
I mean, I think that's a contradiction, isn't it? A Royal Marine sniper wants to save you. Like, it's the...
We've not even gone into sniper. How did you get in the sniper route?
Oh, mate, bloody hell. It was really weird. So, again, I was underplaying myself, but I was just getting really annoyed, frustrated with where I was in the Marines. And then I said to myself one morning at parade, I said, the next thing that comes through that door, I'm going to volunteer for it. And then the sergeant come through and said, right, who wants to do a sniper course? And I just put my hand up. And then, right, you have to do the aptitude.
What if it had been in the kitchen or something?
I know, mate, I'd have been gutted. I'd have been like...
not that that's a bad thing, but you know what I mean.
It's totally not, and you need every branch in the Marines.
I didn't mean that the way it came across, but
no,
you picked a cool one. And just like getting into sniper school. How tough is that beyond what you've already been through in the military?
Yeah, so at the time it was it was like the top kind of the top sniper course to do. The Royal Marine sniper course was really well respected. You had a lot of special forces guys would come and do the Royal Marine sniper course. And it was hard. You have to be on top of your soldiering, your field craft, your map reading, your kind of stalking, your shooting, all that stuff. So it was like, I think it was 11-week course when I'd done it. And it's pretty intense with really high pass marks, like 80-90% on some of the stances. But it's kind of gradual that they build you up to that, because like at the start, you're not passing anything. You're like, there's no way I'm going to pass this course. But yeah, there's just this weird band of brothers when you pass out and you're like, oh, you're a sniper, yeah, sniper. And you all know each other, and there's this little nod. But it's pretty cool. It was a really good course, probably one of the best things I've ever done, to be honest.
Yeah, and going from there into sniper, did you finish in the military as a sniper, or did you maneuver into anywhere else, or how did your career?
Yeah, so we like set up a sniper troop at 4-5 up in Arbroath, and then that's where I finished my time from there.
Yeah, and then the paramedics and you stuck in danger. You kept that lifestyle going. You've mentioned a couple of places you'd love to go, but is there wildlife? Is there places, we talked about snakes earlier right off the bat, but is there places that you'd love to go? I don't know, tigers, lions, and you've maybe done it already, and it's maybe just everyday adventures for you, but places where there are animal documentaries and things like that. Have you done any of those where you've been up close and personal with somebody and you're there in case there is an attack or something like that?
So that kind of thing, the big game, I've just been knocked back for a job actually because I didn't have big game experience. I was like, but my mate's on it now, so I was like, pretty jealous. So yeah, the lions, tigers and stuff, that's kind of what I enjoy the most, the real life stuff. The TV shows, yeah, they're good fun, but they're a massive circus. There's a lot of people, and it can sometimes be quite ugly. Like, I enjoy them, don't get us wrong, but the natural history stuff is kind of what I enjoy the most. It's normally a small team going into a remote location to film these animals, like the Greenland shoot. that was amazing watching what these guys were doing with the musk oxen. And that, like I say, that's probably the closest I've been where we woke the musk oxen up, the musk ox up, and it was really confused. And we were a bit of a group of people, so he obviously thought we were the herd, and started coming towards us, and then coming faster and faster as we're trying to get out of there. Which was quite interesting because I fired me. So you're there in Greenland, you've got a rifle for the polar bears, and then a bit of a flare gun to try and scare them away first. So I thought, right. So I fired a bit of a bang, like a flare, but it went behind it and then exploded behind. And obviously it started running faster because I'd shot behind. It's like, oh, great.
The sniper with a great shot.
Exactly. Exactly. These are area weapons.
But I mean, polar bears, no signs of polar bears.
No, not when I was there. There was a report of a mother in Cove at the end of the runway, but we didn't come anywhere near it. And to be honest, I'm quite happy with that. If I prefer not to see them or have to intervene in any way, so it was quite nice.
Well, you see these viral videos. A lot of them are quite historic now, but like people in their tents and there's a polar bear sticks its head in and all that sort of stuff. Game over. A polar bear gets you.
Oh, they're huge beasts. But it's becoming more prevalent, isn't it? Especially in like Alaska and Canada and stuff, as they're kind of creeping into the towns and villages, the polar bears.
Yeah, well, the mountain lions and all that, they're feeding on dogs in back gardens and all these sorts of things. It's not.
I know.
It's the everyday man and women that need to worry about their kids playing in the garden. A mountain lion jumps over your back fence.
Exactly. Imagine that.
There's a good podcast I like listening to called Tooth and Claw podcast, and it's all about animal attacks. You should check if you're into that. You should check it out. It sounds a bit gruesome, and it is.
Good. Yeah.
But the guy's a biologist. It's his brother, and they've got a producer on the show, and they get sent these pretty horrific animal attacks. But some of them are just you cannot believe that's happened. Hippos trying to eat kids and all these sorts of things in back gardens.
Yeah, no, it's brutal in the thought of it. Like this. I'm potentially going up to the Arctic Circle again in the summer, and like obviously the polar bear experience is what you need and stuff like that. But that's one of the biggest things in my mind for these jobs is you don't want those encounters. You don't want those things coming close to you if you can.
No,
I'm happy to see them through a set of binos.
Because you're the guy who's got to run towards it.
Exactly.
If someone's getting attacked, you're in. Wayne, there's an attack. What about the UK? What have you got plans over here? Are things like the Kendal Mountain Festival on your radar, all these sorts of things, or how does the rest of the year look for you?
I think someone was mentioning something about a mountain festival in Fort William.
Oh yeah. I can't remember when that is. That's like a mountain movie festival. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's like February time. Someone asked us to chat for something there. I think that's next year. But I think Jen. I was hoping to go to the Kendal Mountain Festival with Jen this year, but I can't remember where I was. I was somewhere. But yeah, I would love to go. Like just the people that get to these events, and you know what I mean. Some cool people, and some of the stories would be amazing to sit and listen to some of the stories and expeditions.
Well, shout out to Jen because she obviously introduced us, but I took the podcast and my whole family down to Kendal last November, and I think we're going to go again this November. But the whole place is just mental. Everyone, all the as a podcaster looking for cool interviews, so many people were there. And you're just bouncing off people, speaking to brands, people in the adventure industry. Yeah. It was amazing. It was class. And Jen, God bless her, she was fantastic. She was kind of in the media and doing all that sort of stuff and running stuff. Extremely kind with her time and everything she did. But if you get to Kendal, it's worth it if you can make it.
Oh, it's like, it is the who's who, isn't it? You see, so I followed it on social media, and I think I was in Bhutan actually when it was on, and I was following it on social media, and I had a bit of FOMO. I was like, oh no, look at that! Like some of the guys there, some of the guys that I know, just be like, just a cool event, just have a few beers, just chill out, and sit back and listen.
But you're out there creating the stories and the memories that we all want to hear at the festival. That's what I'm looking at you going, that's cool,
I just need to get better at storytelling, don't I, really? And
I think when you need to just sort of just announce the things you've done, to you it's kind of it's very much just your life and what you've done, whereas I'm here wanting to know all these stories, and people want to know, because the everyday man and woman doesn't get to do these things, doesn't get to just miss a snake bite or go for 3 months on a boat and all these sorts of things. And that's why we love hearing these stories.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully I get to Kendal. Depends when it is, but I've obviously got to come and do some ambulance shifts as well. So I'll be in the UK in May. Just doing a bit of normal paramedic work, just
Oh,
keeping
so
my hand in.
you still do that? You still?
Yeah, totally, mate. Like you have to do it just to stay slick, to be honest. Remain slick, stay confident, all those things, because when it goes wrong, you want to have that feeling of, right, yeah, I've got this in the back of your head, you know.
Sorry, and that's to keep you slick for the sort of TV and big adventures you do.
Yeah, as a medic,
Okay.
like to be able to do, you need to be able to do the job, you know. It's all very well, yeah, I'm a paramedic, but I haven't done any paramedic stuff for 10 years. It'd be pretty shoddy, you know. So got to keep slick at your skills. You just got to, the biggest thing is knowing what's right and wrong, like when someone's ill, when they're not, and these little things, and you can only pick that up through experience and through seeing it. So I try and maintain my skills as much as I can.
And I take it they're always looking for paramedics, are they?
At the minute, yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty brutal at the minute for paramedics, and well, you know what it's like. So yeah, there's always kind of shifts to be done, and I'm saying I want to come back and use my paramedic skills. There's a chance I could be sat in a queue in a hospital for 12 hours and not get to do anything, but we'll see what happens. But that's my idea for May anyway. And maybe a bit of rope work, maybe.
Where's home in the UK? Where do you head to?
So normally kind of the northeast, like Cramlington area, which is like Northumberland.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll head there, and then I do most of my shifts in Scotland, around Glasgow.
Okay, I'll keep you busy there. Keep you busy through the Ouija's.
Negative words. I think I'm just getting my ear in now for the accent, so I'm finally understanding what people are saying after 15 years.
Well, mine's the Edinburgh accent. You've understood what I've been saying, though, yeah?
No, I've just been talking, and then hopefully I'm getting it right.
Wayne, good on you, mate. I can't believe I said we'd do about 40 minutes. We're pushing through it, and I hope you if you've listened to one of my shows, you'll realise that I don't have any notes here. We just sort of go, and if I think of something to talk about, you've been brilliant. Love the stories, love everything you do, and a big thanks, as I said, to Jen. From Kendal for putting us together, and I hope we can keep in touch, and I hope I'm never in your ambulance, but
yeah.
I'm keen to keep following you on Instagram and seeing all the cool stuff you get up to.
No, amazing, mate. No, thanks for chatting. You know, it's been really nice, quite refreshing just to have not a structure and just a bit of chat. It's quite nice. But yeah, like, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
No
It'd be
problem.
Great to try and catch up.
Yeah, no, do that next when you're in Scotland. Give us a shout because we're not far away. I was actually in Glasgow last Friday because the Kendal Mountain Festival was on tour.
Yeah, Tim. I seen me mate. He was there.
Tim. Yeah, I was speaking to him. I'm trying to get him on the show.
Tim Howell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's busier than me, that lad.
He's jumping off cliff faces in wingsuits. Absolutely. I mean, fair enough. That's what I enjoy about sort of you and these guys, the adventurers, is we look at it as how dangerous it is, but you guys are so prepared that I get told that it takes the danger out of it for us because we know every eventuality. We have practiced. We have done this. We've failed so many times that now we touch wood to get it right every time.
Yeah, it's that risk mitigation, isn't it? And so I used to get told off quite a lot in the ambulance service for being too pragmatic. And it's like someone who's unfit, who maybe can't scale down a wall, thinks that's too risky, whereas I'm reasonably fit, I can scale down a wall, I'll shimmy down there. It's not a risk to me. So risk is all subjective, isn't it? And for me to say that's really risky, yeah, there is an element of risk, but like someone like Tim, he's mitigated all those risks. Yeah. And the way he plans his jumps and all that, like fine tooth comb. So yeah, everyone's risk's different and everyone mitigates risk different. And I used to get me back up a little bit when I'd have someone come in and say, that was so risky and you shouldn't have done that. I'm like, for you, but it was pretty reasonable for me.
Yeah, if you say you're not doing it, everyone else should just back off.
yeah.
All right, mate. Wayne, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on for a blether. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, Nashy. Cheers, mate.